Housing professionals are panicking about the housing market. And I gotta tell you, if you're panicking now, you got a really cold winter ahead, and I'm gonna tell you why. Next, there's also a story that just hit that suggests that our old friend from the last housing crisis, shadow inventory, may actually be re-emerging. And this could spell danger if you are in one of the heavily impacted areas that saw this same phenomenon last time. Let's get into it. As we know, as I'm filming this, Jerome Powell just recently raised interest rates to battle inflation. And this is the interesting thing is Jerome Powell jumps in, he's raised another 75 basis points. I'm not suggesting that has any effect on housing and interest rates. But I am saying that the effects of inflation, 9.1% increase last month, Powell is still not seeing the pressure on prices and starting to deflate the economy. Yet there's a whole lot of economists starting to build a consensus saying we are now going into recession. White House is trying to rename the word to transition, but when you have GDP follow 2 quarters, it goes down, then you're in trouble. But Powell is saying that the labor market is still too tight, which means all the things that we've done so far, okay, is not helping get the country out of an inflationary spin. But at the same time, the problems that inflation's causing is very scary for the housing market. I'm gonna make a couple points here. The same housing markets that were in trouble last time, okay? The leading states in the 2008, 2009, that whole last down cycle, yes, there's less risky lending and all of that, but some of the problems have returned. Number one, housing affordability in the Sand States is terrible. In LA, if you're looking to buy a condo townhome, it is 40% cheaper to rent in Los Angeles than it is to purchase. In Las Vegas, the same thing. Vegas is actually slightly higher than LA now in that it costs you far more to buy a house, single family home, than it does to just rent one. It's a significant savings to rent there. Orlando, this is super important for my friends in Florida. Orlando last month just crossed the threshold across all residential categories where it is now more affordable to rent a home than to buy one in the Central Florida area. That's across all residential categories. For buying a house, about a month ago, that line was already crossed. It's now 7% cheaper to rent a house in Orlando than to purchase one. So putting all that together, you have a crisis in home affordability. So even while the inflation is still rising, there's still a pressure on pricing, all the indicators in housing is that since the interest rates started to boom, and since housing interest rates were going vertical and it got really expensive for home buyers who were getting pre-qualified to actually get approved, you know, in some cases, people lost $200,000 of buying power overnight. They're pre-approved for $400,000 or $500,000. Then that pre-approval got cut to $250,000, $300,000. They can't buy anything. So as a result, you're seeing now in all of the news how the housing market has gone cold. That was a headline by Yahoo Finance. They cited the fact that housing is likely just in the beginning of a recession. This is what RBC Capital chief economist Tom Persellia said. He wrote on Monday, of course, a large amount of activity was pulled forward during the pandemic, and then you layer on top of that the sharp rise in rates. And then basically, as a result, if you look at any marketplace in the US, you're seeing inventory rise really rapidly. Orlando, same thing. Vegas, same thing. And at the same time, the matter of competition is falling. So competition was just reported on. You had Redfin, you had CNN, a bunch of different companies say, hey, multiple offers, bidding wars are now on the decline. Yes, there's still 3 out of 10, 4 out of 10 homes are going in bidding wars. Listen to this. So you have anywhere from 30, 40%, depending on the market you're in, particularly in LA, Phoenix, Las Vegas, Orlando, Miami. Those areas are now seeing, a drop in how many, homes are actually in bidding wars, but there's still a significant number. 3, 4 out of 10 bidding wars. Interest rates have affected a lot, fewer buyers in the market. But on the other hand, in all these markets at large, you're also seeing equal number now of price reductions to get those homes sold. So you're seeing 40% price reductions. In Orlando, the largest number I've seen in a long time, last 7 days was over 5,000 price reductions. Las Vegas, I saw a friend of mine out there report there's over something like over 2,000 homes in price reductions after that reduction. I don't even know how many homes they have in available status. I would imagine that represents a large number. But a lot of the companies are actually putting out all this, their forecasting for 2022 and going into 2023 are all revising them. You got Zillow, I think's revised their forecast 3 times. Fannie Mae's revised theirs already. CoreLogic's. So the thing is, their chief economist keeps saying, early in the year it's going to be really great, and now they just keep downgrading it as the data comes out, and things are, not such, the soft landing that everybody's hoping for in the housing market doesn't look like it's there. Fannie Mae just came out survey on a constant basis to see what the sentiment is between home buyers and home sellers, and it's really, they're still in dramatic differences, right? It's been such a good time to sell for so long. It's been such a poor time to buy just because it's been impossible to purchase a home. You don't have one to choose from. You're fighting other buyers, but all the sentiments are now going in the reverse direction. So obviously, you're seeing selling is dropping. The sentiment to buy is starting to climb, but it's inching. Obviously, there's still a lot of headwinds in purchasing now. But the survey had a record high sentiment of consumers who believe the economy is on the wrong track. 81% of consumers, and again, that's not about the housing market alone. When you have an 81%, somebody got kidnapped. That's an Amber Alert. I don't know if you guys have those in any other states. Are you kidnapped? Anyways, so the 81% of the record high number, I'll try to throw this graph on the screen, is it's not just housing, it's actually a lot of the sentiment of management. It's a management complaint. They don't like who's running the country. They don't like how the country's being run. Inflation's run amok. Prices stink. So that's general complaining, right? And they don't feel like, I'd imagine for me, I'm looking at our governance and they're sitting there renaming inflation to transition. There's you don't get it. You don't understand what's going on if you're literally trying to rebrand how bad things are. And I think America's just, you look at any poll and just the frustration's unanimous. But let's talk about that. How will the economy affect housing? And that is super important because most real estate agents don't look at economy at all outside of their own, okay? Very important. Most agents will look at the realities of the housing market and say, hey, you know what? We don't have risky lending this time. Facts, that's true. We don't have one person buying 10 owner-occupant properties in a matter of 3 months that they default on 9 out of 10 of them, if they're, at best. So there's definitely some different changes in the marketplace versus last time. But it's overwhelming how there are definitely some existing dangers, because while we're already seeing some negative trends in housing, you're already seeing, inventory jump up. You're seeing pendings are pendings are falling. Cancellations of homes rising, a record high anytime on record other than the pandemic. Mortgage applications, so amount of people getting applying for mortgages right now is very, very low. Even though we had interest rates in the last 3 days come down quite a bit from where they were in June and July, early parts of July. So, there's still a lot of reticence, hesitancy from home buyers getting in the market. And then, couple that with the fact that 81% of consumers feel like it's rough in the economy, right? It's also the idea of how is my ability to repay my loan going to be in the next 2 or 3 years. And you kind of look at this, Mark Zuckerberg, love him or hate him, is a billionaire. He has access to economists. He has access to government and policy that we do not have access to as commoners, right? And he had a company-wide Q&A within the last 3 weeks where he basically was warning his company that we're gonna have, in his quote, might be one of the worst downturns we've seen in recent history, as he was kind of leaning into the fact that, and what he really made news about was how he's gonna set more aggressive goals to get rid of people in his company. So he's literally thinking, we're gonna shed people, let's have a plan to get rid of the losers, right? So, I hate to say it that way, that's not politically correct, but he literally said, part of my hope is raising expectations and having more aggressive goals and just turning up the heat a little bit. And as I think some of you might decide that this isn't the place for you and self-selection is okay with me. Wow. I'm surprised. That doesn't sound like granola eating vegan guy that he gets portrayed. He suddenly turned into just a tenacious capitalist in this particular article, because he basically, I mean, there's probably a lot of safe space and things going on after he had that meeting. But the point is, he's telling people, like, we got people that we're not going to need, and we're going to keep the best, and we're going to shed a bunch of people. So this guy runs probably, I mean, Facebook. Wouldn't you think Facebook would be potentially hurt the least when it relates to a downturn in the economy? And he's saying we're going to be getting rid of people. That's a recession signal from a dude who knows. Besides the fact his IQ is 180 or whatever it is. The guy looks like something off Star Trek, right? He's just like robotic in how he talks because he's very intelligent. And this has been echoed by other very brilliant people. So with all that being the case, you're going to see some tension in the market. You're going to see, the loose ends of the tight job market. And that's the goal with the Fed, is Jerome Powell saying, hey, the market's too tight for employment. He's literally trying to increase unemployment and raising interest rates. He's saying that's not happening. And then you go on TikTok and you see people who go a rant on TikTok about how when they're on their break at Costco, they're just absolutely ticked that someone might come up and ask them for help. And so they say, I ignore people when I've just clocked out and they see I'm wearing my name tag and I run to my car. It's like, dude, you're gonna be on the side path really fast if inflation is brought under control, which it looks like the goal of the Fed is to take care of that. One of the interesting things that we also saw is that there's a chance that shadow inventory, ghost houses, phenomenon we saw last time might become a phenomenon this time. An article came up called The Most Vacant Cities in America. It was a review of 2022 data of the census, and they actually brought up the cities that are top 10 that have the most vacant homes in America. So not only did they review properties with rental vacancy, but they also reviewed properties with what's called just home ownership vacancy, meaning this is a property someone owns and nobody lives in it. Okay. The interesting thing about that is in the top 5, Orlando, Florida came up on the top of the list, and Las Vegas came up number 4 on the list. And Orlando has the highest rental vacancy rate at almost 10%. And it has the highest, I believe it's the highest, only one on this list. It's double the nearest city of homeowner vacancy. That means there's a lot of homes in the Orlando area that are literally unoccupied by anybody throughout the year. And that's the interesting thing, is that the Sand States in the last marketplace, the thing is, unfortunately, I only have 9 cities on the list. Florida has a lot of them because we have a lot of homes that are in vacation rentals. And that's something that the report pointed out, is that, hey, you know what? If you live in an area with high vacation rentals that run really well, like an Airbnb in Florida near Disney, is vacant 210 days out of the year. I'm sorry, it's occupied 210 days out of the year, 215 days maybe. So it has a high vacancy rate anyway. So this is a bit skewed because you have pockets, particularly in Orlando, that are around Disney, and those are just by nature going to have a 30% vacancy rate. Everything in the kind of the center market of normal non-day-to-day rental type thing, talking long-term rental base in Orlando area, it rents rapidly. It's uncommon for a rental in the marketplace to sit for more than 2 weeks. However, one of the things that impacted the marketplace in Orlando, in Las Vegas, in Phoenix, in LA, in the last bubble burst, the last time we had an actual housing bubble that actually was, created crisis, was the fact that there was a downturn in the economy. You have recession, you have less spending, you have curtailment of costs. So people are balancing their budgets. They're getting rid of homes they don't need. They're getting rid of houses that aren't filled. They're getting rid of things that are an income stream. And sometimes that means budgeting means they don't go on vacation as much. So one of the things that is a looming possibility and a looming concern, especially if you are exposed in the vacation rental market in these areas, is that those areas, when recession hits, are definitely prone to trouble. The other thing too is, particularly in our case, and I would love to see the numbers in Las Vegas, if anybody there actually has a way of pulling data that are, around Airbnb, how fast those appreciate. In Orlando, it's very easy because for us to pull, to live in an Airbnb area, it's specific zip codes, specific area of town. So we can actually pull those areas and know how much price appreciation they had, how much growth did they have. This is incredible, by the way. So in Kissimmee, particularly the Vacation zip code, which is 34747, it's Reunion, it's all that area pocketed. Kissimmee went up 83% in 2 to 3 year time frame. So 83% price growth. Davenport went up, and Davenport's another hot community right off of Disney. It was really more of a sleepy community. It wasn't that crazy with price until it's just been, there's been so much money coming into Central Florida. So people have been wanting to live there, but they're also buying vacation homes there. Davenport saw an 80% price increase in 3 years. By the way, this is the sketchiest part that I'm concerned about. Townhomes in Davenport went up 87% in 2 years' time, okay? 2 year time frame, 87% price growth. That's nuts. That's nuts. Doesn't matter, you have that much transaction volume in one area, and then you have vacancy, you have a lot of those homes that are, I don't have to own it, but I'm in straits, I've got to sell it. You're going to have, I think, particularly some challenges in those particular areas of the country. And again, we'd have to hold and see what would happen, and particularly see what happens. I'd love to see the data in the other states that are, the economies there function similar to what Florida does. Time will tell. But one of the things that I'm kind of seeing now, I think if the economists, the forecasters were a little bit more honest, they would be talking about the fact that right now we still have demand that's left over from the last year. So you have so many people that were in the system that were wanting to buy, that those buyers have not gone through the system. They're not completely out yet, and they will be by November and December. And so when that takes place, and then you have data like last week where there's really not, there's a drop, there's a decrease in the amount of people applying to get behind them and become the next buyer, all that's shaping up to be a very, very interesting winter. Thanks for watching. If you're new to the channel, hit the subscribe button to follow us for more real estate news. If you want to invest with our team, we are still doing phenomenal work in Orlando. You can still make incredible money. We have opportunities where you can have a vacancy rate on your properties of near zero, okay? At very, very, very high income. Cash flow is king. No matter what the economy does, whether your capital goes up or down, people still have to rent. The only thing that can really impact rent is our government. And aside from that, you can still do really great things with housing. Check out what we're doing at nestshare.com. It is a very recession resilient investment. A lot of people are running here to shelter, doing 1031s out of current investments to see great gains, and we're killing it in Orlando. Additionally, you can flip with me. We have some groups put together where we flip capital, and again, it doesn't matter. If capital comes down, if prices come down, we're going to buy at the lower ranges and we're going to exit still with a profit. Okay? So invest with Jones if you're looking for a solid real estate investment in changing times. As always, thanks for watching. Give the video a like if you appreciate all the content put together, and we'll talk to you real soon.